Have you ever noticed that earning more money doesn't always make people feel more financially secure? It seems like a contradiction, yet it plays out in households across every income level. Someone receives a promotion, negotiates a higher salary, or starts earning significantly more than they did a few years ago, and for a brief period, life feels easier. Then, almost without noticing, the extra breathing room disappears. A larger apartment feels reasonable because work has become more demanding. Newer car seems justified because reliability matters. Vacations become a little nicer, subscriptions quietly multiply, dinners out become more frequent, and suddenly the paycheck that once seemed life-changing feels ordinary again. The destination keeps moving just far enough ahead that satisfaction never quite catches up, leaving many people asking a simple question. If I'm making more than ever before, why does it still feel like I'm standing still? This experience is often described as the middle class trap, not because the middle class lacks opportunity, but because financial progress is frequently accompanied by invisible expectations that expand just as quickly as income. The trap isn't created by one bad purchase or a single irresponsible decision. Instead, it emerges gradually through hundreds of small adjustments that each feel perfectly logical in isolation. Over time, those adjustments reshape a person's monthly obligations until their higher income is supporting a more expensive lifestyle rather than creating greater financial flexibility. The result is that earning more changes how money flows through your life without necessarily changing how much freedom it creates. To understand why this happens, it helps to recognize that human beings rarely evaluate money in absolute terms. We evaluate it relative to our current environment, our peers, and our own recent experiences. A salary that once seemed unimaginable quickly becomes normal because the brain is remarkably efficient at adapting to improved circumstances. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation, the tendency for people to return to a familiar level of satisfaction after positive changes. Financially, this means today's luxury often becomes tomorrow's baseline. Once something feels normal, giving it up feels like a loss, even if it was considered unnecessary only a few years earlier. Imagine someone earning $50,000 per year. Their expenses are carefully managed because every purchase requires thought. After several years, they receive promotions and eventually earn $80,000. At first, the additional income creates genuine relief. Bills are easier to pay, savings begin to grow, and unexpected expenses become less stressful. But as confidence increases, so do expectations. They move into a larger home with higher rent, finance a newer vehicle, upgrade technology, dine out more frequently, and gradually increase recurring monthly expenses. None of these choices appear reckless because each one consumes only a fraction of the raise, yet together they absorb nearly all of the additional income. The mathematics behind this process is surprisingly straightforward. Suppose someone's annual income rises by $30,000 before taxes. Depending on where they live and their tax situation, the actual increase available for spending may be closer to $20,000. Spread across 12 months, that represents roughly $1,600 in additional monthly cash flow. A slightly higher mortgage payment, a larger car payment, increased insurance premiums, more frequent travel, upgraded groceries, streaming subscriptions, and additional discretionary spending can collectively exceed that amount with remarkable speed. The raise has increased income, but it has also permanently increased required spending. This distinction between optional spending and fixed obligations is one of the most important concepts in personal finance. Optional expenses can usually be reduced during difficult times. Fixed obligations cannot. Every new monthly payment reduces flexibility because it commits future income before it has even been earned. Financial resilience is often determined less by how much someone earns than by how much of their income remains uncommitted each month. This is why two households with identical salaries can experience completely different levels of financial stress. One family may have modest recurring expenses and significant savings, allowing unexpected events to become temporary inconveniences. Another family with the same income may have much larger fixed obligations, leaving little room for uncertainty. From the outside, both appear equally successful, yet internally their financial realities are fundamentally different. Behavioral economics offers another explanation for why the middle-class trap is so persistent. People naturally anchor their spending to those around them. As income rises, social circles often change as well. Colleagues may live in larger homes, drive newer vehicles, or vacation more frequently. These comparisons rarely feel competitive because they happen subconsciously. What once appeared extravagant gradually begins to look ordinary simply because it has become familiar. The standard for what feels normal quietly shifts upward. History demonstrates that this pattern is not unique to modern consumer culture. Throughout different economic periods, rising prosperity has frequently been accompanied by rising expectations. During times of sustained economic growth, households often expanded their lifestyles under the assumption that future income would continue increasing. When economic downturns eventually arrived, many discovered that reducing expenses was far more difficult than increasing them had been. The challenge was not merely lower income but the persistence of obligations created during more optimistic years. Inflation introduces another layer to the equation. When prices gradually increase over time, raises often feel necessary just to maintain purchasing power. If someone receives a salary increase that closely matches inflation, they may technically earn more while experiencing little improvement in their standard of living. At the same time, lifestyle upgrades purchased during periods of optimism continue requiring maintenance, insurance, repairs, and replacement costs. Ownership creates long-term financial commitments that extend well beyond the initial purchase. The middle-class trap also affects decision-making in subtle psychological ways. When monthly obligations become large, career choices begin revolving around maintaining income rather than maximizing long-term opportunity. A person may hesitate to change industries, start a business, reduce working hours, or pursue additional education because fixed expenses require immediate stability. Financial commitments gradually shape professional decisions, reducing flexibility even as income appears higher than ever. This illustrates an important distinction between income and wealth. Income is money flowing into your life. Wealth represents accumulated resources that provide options independent of future earnings. A household with substantial savings and modest expenses may possess greater financial security than another household earning significantly more but spending nearly everything it receives. One depends primarily on continued income, while the other has created a buffer between daily life and financial uncertainty. Compound growth reinforces this difference over long periods. Small amounts consistently saved and invested can gradually become meaningful assets because future returns begin generating additional returns. The process is slow, especially during the early years, which makes it easy to underestimate its significance. Lifestyle expansion produces immediate visible rewards, while long-term wealth accumulation often appears almost invisible at first. Human psychology naturally favors immediate improvements over distant outcomes, making the middle-class trap feel more rewarding in the present even if it reduces future flexibility. None of this suggests that spending more money is inherently wrong. Improving quality of life, enjoying meaningful experiences, and rewarding years of hard work are all reasonable goals. The critical question is whether increased spending purchases lasting value or simply raises the financial baseline that must be maintained indefinitely. Every recurring expense should be understood not only as today's decision, but as tomorrow's obligation. Perhaps the most useful shift is viewing financial progress through the lens of freedom rather than consumption. A raise can certainly support a nicer lifestyle, but it can also shorten the time needed to build emergency savings, reduce debt, increase investments, or create options that did not previously exist. Those choices rarely produce immediate excitement because they are measured in flexibility rather than visible possessions. Yet flexibility is often what people are truly seeking when they hope to earn more money. The middle-class trap is therefore less about income than identity. Many people unconsciously begin measuring success by how closely their lifestyle reflects their earnings. An alternative perspective measures success by how much control higher earnings create over future decisions. In one version, every raise becomes another opportunity to increase obligations. In the other, each raise gradually expands the distance between earning money and needing every dollar that arrives. When viewed this way, financial security becomes less about reaching a particular salary and more about preserving the gap between what you earn and what you require to maintain your life. That gap represents flexibility, resilience, and choice. It is the space where opportunities become possible, where unexpected challenges become manageable, and where money begins serving as a tool instead of becoming another responsibility to protect. The middle-class trap reminds us that earning more is only one part of financial progress. The equally important question is whether greater income is increasing the size of your lifestyle or the size of your future options.
Back to you, my friend. Don't even ask, don't play pretend.